So, a couple terminologies that not everyone may know. A lot of people who've been in the game industry for a while are technical artists, who they know this by heart. But if you just get into art and you're kind of doing this from more of a non-technical standpoint, some of these may be unfamiliar to you. So one of the big ones you hear a lot of people talk about is alpha channel. And all it is it's how transparent the pixel is. And this is very important in blending, and how the engine or the web browser, how you blend the two different images together. Pixel bit depth is how many bytes it takes to store one pixel of data. And think of your image in data or in memory being stored like a brick wall. And each brick takes so many bytes of memory to store. Dots per inch, I've heard a lot of people in the forums throw this around and not really understand what it is. It's technically dots per inch. And it actually is a relationship of the pixels to dots on a printed page. And it comes from the old days of CRTs and referring to the, I guess, the photons on the CRT and those in dots per image. As LCDs have come in phase and more new technologies, they've moved away from dots per inch, and it's more pixels per inch now, which is the number of pixels on the display and how tight they can pack them in there. And a lot of people throw around the form 72, don't really know what that is. That's actually a standard for DPI that comes from Apple when they originally set up the dots per inch to figure out who should use what size. Microsoft came with 96, which had actually a lot of problems because it didn't quite scale right. It's for fonts. And Apple came up with 72 because it's a one-to-one representation of pixels to dots on the page.
I'll also note one of the reasons it gets brought up in the forums, if you're newer, is that for a while we were able to find whether certain files were corrupt because when you loaded them in preview, it would give you a weird number for dots per inch. Because pretty much every software nowadays saves it in 72 if you don't specify otherwise. And if you suddenly get 71.3 dots per inch, there was probably some corruption somewhere in there. And so that's why when we say fix the dots per inch is that by changing the dots per inch, you have made a change to the file without affecting anything, and it'll allow you to resave it in preview and fix the corruption.
But just realize dots per inch has absolutely nothing to do with drawing pixels on the screen necessarily. It's actually printing on a page. RGBA, you see a lot of that, or RGB. That is actually, that acronym actually tells you the order of the bits stored in memory. So we saw here bits per depth. So if it was a 32-bit image, you get, was it 8? My brain's like, yeah, 8 bits per channel, which would be 32 total. So you can also see BGRA and a couple other ways you can store them, but depending on your platform, they may be stored one way or another. This is a common way of having them stored. And the resolution is the total number of pixels in memory for your image. So it's 1,000 by 1,000. There'll be 1,000 RBGA in one direction and 1,000 RBG the other way, and multiply them together, and that's the total number of pixels for your image. And then if you want to make the full math, take the resolution pixels by pixels, so give you the total number of pixels, take that times the bit depth, and that'll tell you how many total bits your image will take up in memory. And if you want to know in bytes, you can take that divide by 1024, divide by number for k over 1024, and you can get megabytes. So now we have that terminology to understand. Oh, one last thing that's also very important is texture. A texture is all it is the representation of your image in graphics card memory. So we've moved it from the main CPU main memory into the graphics card memory. And we'll talk a little bit about what kind of bottlenecks that causes and why people talk about throughput of your GPU and CPU and why that's important. So displaying a browser image on a web browser. So it's pretty straightforward, right? The server, you make a request, it goes to the server, pulls the image down, downloads the image, decompresses the image if there's compression on it, like a PNG or a JPEG or a GIF or whatever image format there is. It runs JavaScript on the page, which is actually a big process, part of it. And then you see an image on the screen, which may go through hardware or software depending on the web browser. Clearly, one of the biggest bottlenecks for web browsers is going to be getting the image from the server. Clearly, depending on latency speeds, this could take seconds, minutes, hours if you have a terrible connection. decompressing an image is probably not the second biggest bottleneck, but could be time consuming, not anywhere near as downloading from the server, depending on how complicated the algorithm is. One of the biggest things in web browsing, JavaScript actually is a fairly process-intensive language to run. There are a lot of things that JavaScript help it, but it is still fairly process-intense. And this scales in seconds. Most of the time, the biggest bottlenecks here, we're talking seconds. You know, maybe it takes half a second to get your stuff from your server. A really bad connection might take a second or two. Now, for a game engine, we're very similar to this. Instead of grabbing from a server, we're pulling it off a disk. We're decompressing the image if there's image decompressed like a PNG, or we have our own compression format that we're doing. Here's a big kind of difference now. The rest of it we don't really care about. This is where we start, what we do next. We have to take the image, and once we pull it in the main memory from decompressing it, we have to get it to the graphics card. Otherwise, it can't be drawn on the screen. Now, this can have some problems. You see a lot of graphics cards, you'll talk about, oh, the bus between this graphics card is 256 bits, or this one's 128. You're like, why is 256 better than 128? It has to do with how much I can get down in one cycle for the image. 256 is twice the size of the 128, so I can get twice texture information down in one cycle. And then clearly it will go to display on the screen once that's done. So the bottlenecks here are a couple things. One, there's only how fast your platter drive will spin. The RPM on your hard drive will clearly dictate how fast I can pull off hard drive. And that's why you see a lot of gamers or a lot of people who are really performance will get a high RPM hard drive, or move to solid state, which has even faster read times. And this all boils down to how fast I can pull the image off the disk. Decompression, if you have a very complicated compression scheme for it, if you have like, I don't know, some crazy complicated PNG that takes me twice the time as a regular PNG, may give you a really small file size, but it takes me a lot longer to decompress it. So these things only happen once. They usually take a few seconds, hopefully not a minute. Maybe you have MMO, a really large thing you're doing stuff on. But the time scale is usually seconds. It happens once or between scenes, and this is what we commonly call as load time, what most people call load time. Now, here are the bottlenecks where you're going to get hit every single frame. And the biggest one by far is going to be getting your texture memory, if you don't have to go back to disk, down to the GPU. It happens every frame, and it has to happen depending on how fast you're creating textures or not, or if you're just already down there. You only have 0.33 milliseconds to get this work done if you're running at 30 frames per second, or 0.16 milliseconds if you're running in 60 frames per second. So you have almost no time to get this done. So the faster you get this stuff down, the faster you get frame rates, the smoother it's going to look. Clearly, the biggest bottleneck here is if we have to go back to disk to pull your image, now you're looking at most of your time taking loading that off disk. So when you're making images for web browsers, people tend to optimize for the download, because that's the biggest bottleneck by far of it. So you see, if you go look up, there's about 20 ways to make a PNG. All kinds of things, from throwing away pixels to shoving more pixels in one bit space to, oh man, what have I seen?
Basically just anything that, anytime you run it through a PNG optimizer.
Yes.
Whatever those things do.
I've seen so many PNG optimizers doing all kinds of weird things to just try to make that thing as small as possible. But you realize the more tricks you do, the more tricks you have to undo it, and the longer it's going to take to do that. Which might be okay in a web browser, because most users, you know, if the page takes a little longer to load, they're okay with that. So you're really optimizing for your download. You might optimize for JavaScript, but that's a little bit outside of this talk.
Network is by far your biggest problem.
Yeah. So how do we optimize our images then when we're making a game? How do you think different on this? So clearly one thing is pick an algorithm that's fairly fast to decompress, or don't use one at all. You'll see a lot of game engines actually come up with their own proprietary format, one that kind of packs their images together as tightly as possible and makes it as quick as possible to get off disk. That's one less step you have to run through. Now with gamesalad, we take care of a lot of this for you. You know, we're trying to figure out how to decompress the PNGs. In our next update, we're actually throwing away PNGs entirely with packing. and we're actually doing what's called Sprite sheet, which is we're packing your images as tightly as possible.
We actually already threw away PNGs.
I know we have to. And in 13, it was the first time we actually removed PNGs, and we actually used our own uncompressed format to load the images even faster. So you saw a speed up from 12 to 13, and now you're going to see a really fast speed up from 13 to 14 because we're packing these images so tightly together and pulling them in so quickly. Now here's the tricky part. Since mobile has caused file size to be an issue because people download over the Wi-Fi and over your cell network, you have this balancing act. You have one side, how do I make this faster for the user to download the app, and the other side, how do I get this to load faster? And it's a complete teeter-totter. You're going to have to kind of find the best balance in your game. You can clearly optimize very quickly for short load times, but your images are going to be larger, and they're going to take longer to download. And the flip side is, if you make them really small, that means either uninstall time, or have to decompress them all, or load time it seems is going to take longer. So it's always a balancing act. Now, the next part here is about throughput. You throughput a lot, and that has to do with the bus connection between CPU and GPU memory. To draw images, your image has to be in the GPU's memory for it to do any work on it. And if you have 1,000 images, they all have to go down the same pipe. And the pipe is only so large, and it can only so much stuff to get down per cycle. So if you have a texture that is like 4,000 by 4,000, heaven forbid, or 1,000 by 1,000, you're going to eat up the majority of that pipe for that one texture. So if you have 1,000 24 by 24, it's going to take a long time to get all your textures down there. And if I have to switch scenes constantly and reload the images, we have to re-push them down. And so you'll really get very poor performance on your game if you're having to do this. So it makes much more sense to break your images down to much smaller images and composite them or tile them over the scene. And this way, you're minimizing the amount of images you actually have to push down to the GPU, and you'll get faster load, you'll get faster render times, you can have more on the screen at the same time, and overall you'll have better performance than trying to make your background a giant monster.
It also gives you more flexibility.
It does. You also can dynamically change your background at runtime in this way too. So you get multiple things out of this. So as an artist, you need to realize that if you're going from like a medium where you're doing concept art or large images, you need to break that habit and think about how do I break that into individual small images and composite that in the game's layout system. And that will give you the overall better throughput. In game 14, we'll actually do some of this for you at compile time. When you publish your game, if you have a giant blue image, we'll take a 64 by 64 tile of your blue image and throw the rest of it away. And we will tile that image for you at runtime. So that way, I only push down 64 by 64 tile versus a 1024 by 1024 image. And you'll be able to take all that stuff we threw away and put more tiles down. So this is probably the single biggest thing you can do in your art to make your game perform better. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Wow, there have been no questions this whole time.
Maybe I just explained it that well. Or if you guys have questions.
No, I got it, Bruce. The compression you guys use, tell me more about it.
Well, let's see, the one we're using, we just picked these at fast.
Okay.
So, explain the whole piloting system too, because that's part of our compression.
Oh, yeah. So, originally what we had is you put all your art and we just individually load all the PNGs, which actually works great if you have a lot of large, giant monsters.
Yeah.
But doesn't work well if you're trying to make a reasonably fast game.
Gotcha.
So, what all things people do in the industry is they make Sprite sheets if you're doing a 2D game, right? And you can take as much art as you can, you slam it into one image, and you chop it up at runtime. So we've done that so we moved from the PNGs, which we found with the compression algorithm was just way too slow. It is really not a good loading speed. So we moved away from that, and now we have a version in 14 of gamesalad. We actually take your images, and we figure out, we take 64-bit pieces of them, and we look for duplicates in the same image. So if we find that, over 90% of your image can be represented with like 3 tiles, then we'll take those few tiles,
push those down,
know how to tile them, and we'll throw away the rest of it, and we'll stick that in the Sprite sheet.
Gotcha.
And so we pack them and use
just got kind of a map of information of where to go.
And this is a technique that you can look at white papers for. It's called mega texture. And so the idea is that we create several large mega textures of tiles.
Gotcha.
And that way, and then we compress those sprite sheets for the download size. We went through and we looked for the fastest algorithm we could for decompressing.
Nice.
With the best ratio, and that actually turned out to be VZIP, I believe. VZIP or some
VZIP,
yeah. And so we take your sprite sheets, we compress them, and that's what we load at runtime. And
we've actually seen a couple of cases where users were saying their game got a little smaller from the PNG version because of the VZIP compression and that added with the timing.
Scott has a question about arcade for mobile, but you're going to have to be a little more specific because that's a pretty general question.
I'm going to guess you mean, so I'm going to take a guess at what you mean by, or actually, instead of guessing, you're good. I'm going to unmute you. Let's see here, there you go. All right, Scott, speak.
I was like wondering, I was more talking about like full screen stuff. For example, I've gone to like the Disney website and they have like games and stuff like that. You can like download it on, well, you can like download like the web link and open it, and it's like full screen on your iPhone. I was wondering, like, can you do something similar with that with like arcade, like have it full screen or not?
Yeah, I don't remember if I finished putting that in. So there is full screen support in arcade. Or in the player for arcade. Oh yes, there is. If you go in, if you look at your arcade bar, there's this button for a right next to the volume button. There is a basically a full screen button. It's just 4 arrows. So if you click that, that'll convert your game to full screen. The only thing we're missing is putting that on mobile, and that's just because the mobile browsers won't allow you to use the HTML5 mechanism to take your div full screen, and so we can't do it. We're thinking at some point, once I get like a good sampling of mobile devices, we'll probably redo the player so that it just happens to render at the right size to be full screen. But we can't do full screen in the way that we do on desktop just because the web browser lets you do it. I think it's just because they don't want to get you in a position where your screen is full and now you can't do anything. Hope that answers. I will mute you now unless you have another question.
Okay, so Eric is asking, will the rendering system in 14 improve mainly load times or gameplay performance will help with games that are heavy behaviors or actors? So yes, on a lot of counts. Load times will be considerably faster, and you will also see performance, especially memory usage.
I would caveat as long as you actually take advantage of
yes. A great example is a painting. A painting will not tile easily. I've seen a couple people who have very beautiful hand-painted backgrounds, which is great, but that is really hard to render quickly.
Yeah.
It'll be no worse than before. Yeah. You really, in that case, want to kind of break out the pieces you can and kind of composite it to try to get as little on there as possible and still recomposite it. Try to find a lot of places you can tile. If you're heavy on behavior actors, if the actors' images are what's slowing down your game, then yes. If it's because you have really complicated logic or heavy on behaviors, this will not speed that up.
It will help a little bit though because of memory usage, because that's one of the things. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something I remember. The reason why you'll see some weird behaviors if you're using the beta or if you're using the nightlies of the new engine is because it differs in optimization. Before, we were using PNGs loading with, like very older versions of the engine, we were using PNGs loaded by iOS's main image loader, and everything seemed to work fine, but the problem was it would use huge amounts of memory in order to accomplish all this. And so kind of the flip of what we're doing is we're optimizing for throughput of the images and less memory versus just doing the stupid thing of throwing everything into memory at once. So this will help in that we're using less memory for images, so there's more memory available for behaviors and other stuff.
Yep.
So it'll help in that way, but there is a limit to how much it's helping.
Yeah, the LUID-JIT, when we switch around LUID-JIT, that helps probably more behaviors than anything else. Does loading an actor image after a second or two change load time? Not really. You're still having this load at some point.
Well, no, if you change load time at the start of a do we have delayed loading?
Okay, so there is a concept called what would be kind of like streaming, where you go ahead and load the image, you load the level, and then you bring art in as you need to. So that would give the perception that your level loads quicker. You are still loading the same amount of time, but the user is busy doing other things while this stuff comes in.
Yeah, well, that's what they're asking.
Yeah. So the perceived load time is shorter.
Do we support doing anything like that?
Yeah, you can still. Oh no, we don't. On the 14, no. 14, we've thrown away preloaded images because it doesn't make any sense anymore. There's no reason to preload because we've loaded everything to mega texture. And if you can't fit your entire game into the giant mega textures, you're probably going a little overkill on the images, and we'll have to dump mega textures between your scenes. So we give you like 4 of these. I can't remember the size depends on the max texture size, but you could have like 4,000 by 4,000 mega textures.
I think it's 4K, yeah. 4K,
Yeah,
4K?
On desktop I think it is, but I don't think a mobile can do that large. I think 2K is something.
So what happens when they load an image when they switch an image after the end?
When they switch image, it'll just, at that point, it just pulls it out of mega texture different. The old engine, it would go load it.
So then my question is, how does it know it's in the mega texture?
There's an index of what's in the mega texture. So when you say, I want to load this image, or I want to switch this actor to this image, it goes, okay, so instead of referencing these tiles in the mega texture, now referencing these tiles in the mega texture. Okay, done. There's no loading, there's just the next render frame.
Well, no, my question was, I thought we were generating the mega textures at load time.
At the very beginning of the thing. The only time
how do we know?
We dump between scenes. We can dump mega texture.
No, what happens if you? So when we load, we generate the mega texture, right?
We generate what goes into it, but yeah.
Yeah. So or the texture that gets shoved into the pipeline. The question is, what happens when you load middle of scene? There is no concept of loading middle scene. Like it loads everything that goes through that scene. How does it know if it's dynamically generated?
I'll have to ask Brian. I don't remember how you guys
I think that's the question we will.
Yeah, I'll have to ask the guy who.
Because I think what Brian does, that's what the second one of the other 4 mega textures is for.
It's possible, yeah. The point is though, you shouldn't have to go to disk, or you shouldn't have to cost anything. You should just pull it in. 14. So what's actually happened to 14 is Steve and I are on ARC. So there's some bugs left on 14, and I can't get to them yet because we're going through ARC switching over for Creator.
Did you explain ARC to the community? Or
yeah, I've got a couple of forums. Okay. Yeah, where that's basically we're fixing the performance issues in gamesalad. And both Steve and I are full on that, and once that gets taken care of, we'll get 14 out to you guys. 1 second, Can't do enough. Any questions for Matt?
Okay. So that Blair, your follow-up, that depends on how we're handling it. I think what's going to happen is it will save you from loading when the engine starts, but I don't know if we fixed this bug yet, but what ends up happening with your situation is if you change image after the engine is, for a subset of, or for a number of the nightlies, if you changed image after the scene had loaded and we hadn't been able to generate the new mega texture in time, that actor will just show up as blank. I think they fixed that issue, and that kind of goes to answering your question, is that there will probably be it's kind of one of those things where you just have to hope that we've been able to load the image fast enough before your new actor shows up. So it's kind of, until we get an answer to this question, it's probably in your best interest to make sure we know about it ahead of time. And it won't, and in which case, you don't really gain much from loading later, because the whole point is we're putting everything into one big image in memory and then throwing it to the graphics system. And in that case, making us load stuff later actually works out worse for you, because then we have to generate another giant big chunk of memory to throw up at the graphics system instead of just doing it in the first place. And because we're already defining that size of that texture, not knowing ahead of time doesn't save you anything, or not knowing that ahead of time doesn't save you anything. So you probably want to just make sure everything is loaded and known as soon as possible. Next one, you can get scenes with tiled actors. Will the render system help with that? Yes, I think so.
Which one is that?
Well, I noticed you can get scenes with tiled actors.
Oh yeah, we fixed all the scenes. Yeah, that was unfortunate. That actually was because of subpixels, which is an unfortunate fact. We didn't talk about Power of 2 textures, which I probably should have talked about a little bit. back in the day when graphics cards were first being made, they kind of rounded off the graphics card memory in blocks of powers of 2. So that's why your textures were in power 2s. And the graphics card didn't know what to do otherwise. It's like, I can't fit a non-power 2 texture into my memory. I don't know what to do with this. So there are a lot of tricks. People would use like power 2 texture, non-power 2 texture on top of that.
In our case, the reason for that optimization was if you went over the power of 2, the card would automatically just allocate the next largest power 2 texture, which was a whole waste of memory.
Well, which is what you have to do, right, when they don't support. A lot of newer graphics cards are now supporting that. I guess they find a way to reorganize their memory in a way that makes sense. There was an OpenGL extension that supported that. I don't remember which version DirectX supported that first. Maybe 9 or 10, I don't remember. But that's kind of a thing that passed now. Most graphics cards that are worth their weight will take care of the non-power 2 issue.
And in our case, we don't even have that as an issue because we're rendering blocks.
Yes. We're about that because it's all 64 anyway.
The new rule is instead of powers of 2, if you can, make your actors divisible by your actors divisible by 64.
Yes. Yes.
Next one. Are you guys getting an Apple Watch tonight?
No.
Or I might, but probably not because I also already got the new Pebble, and that's more than I'm not wearing my Pebble right now, which tells you how much I use my watch.
You should put it on both arms. You can compare.
Yeah,
which one's better?
Like, both of my arms are vibrating now.
And those kids faster than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
The gold one, yeah. The gold one, that's ridiculous.
$2,000.
Oh my God.
Also, Scott, thanks for reminding me. I completely forgot that I may want to pre-order an Apple Watch. So.
Good. Then we can figure out how we can put gamesalad on it for you.
Oh God.
Yeah, someone already made a puzzle game for it, but I haven't yet actually pulled the simulator down and seen you from OpenGL. I bet you will probably drain your phone quicker than you can actually do anything with it.
Yeah.
They're like, and you start Flappy Birds, and your phone's dead. Okay, done. Oh yeah, the password. I'm gonna get Wi-Fi set up. All right.
You do. I just forgot the password after.
Nice. You could get Wi-Fi there.
One day.
Yeah, yes, but with the zeros, the O's are zeros.
Anyone want anything to drink?
DP?
Huh? Okay.
Right
or normal?
Yeah.
Regular.
Regular.
Okay.
So wait, that's the server name?
No,
That's the password name.
yeah, it's all right. Any updates on iOS? No. Yeah, Steve and I can both talk about this. Any updates on iOS 7 and iOS 8 minimum requirements? Remember they had the minimum where you can set the minimum?
Yeah.
So yeah, we pretty much found out that it's not actually working to change the binary, and we're not sure how to do that at publish time. And we have to get through ARC and then 14, and basically it's kind of taking a low priority. I got bigger fish to fry. So we'll get to it at some point, but we just disabled it because it just didn't actually work. So no use having something that just doesn't work and you guys being mad and why does this work? Because it never did. But yeah, we found out there's more to it than just setting a plist entry, which is unfortunate. Is 15 just performance updates or tweaks? I have to go look at my 15 is actually, the biggest thing on 15 I think we have scheduled is the Windows EXE, isn't it?
Yeah, which we haven't talked about yet, so I don't know if you want to.
About that. Well, we kind of talked about it in the forums.
Have we?
Yeah, we have talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 15 is Windows standalone executable.
Yeah. There's a few other features in there too.
There's some secret features I want to get in there, which I haven't talked about yet.
But not performance, more feature heavy than performance. 14 is the big performance version.
Yeah. I'm watching polls now.
All right, go ahead. Which is interesting, they show up in data searching it. All right. Currently, my game will rise in usage the longer it is opened and it being played on the device seems to go up for scene change. This can make some older issues. So this, basically what you're describing, Eric, is one of the issues that we found in the engine. There's a memory leak. What was memory leak? It wasn't related to tables. It was related to something else. Remember we had the big memory spike that we fixed a couple months ago?
Several of them.
There's several.
One of them had to do with tables leaking.
Yeah, which we fixed that one in 14.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? There was another one that was like some font thing, or one other one. There was something in 14 that leaked. That's something else. Yes. So ideally, the rendering system will help you, Eric. If there's still, we're gonna go do after we finish ARC, we're gonna do a pass on the engine, see if there's any leaks left. But theoretically, yes. If we've got leaks fixed and the rendering system, you should see a pretty smooth amount of memory. Yeah. If we can tile your images, that's per se. How will GameStyle compete with graphene? I don't have any public details I can talk about that.
How do what?
GameStyle compete with graphene.
Compete. It doesn't compete. They're complementary products. That's the official line, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't have any more to comment on that one. We're still working on GameSalad. Will GameSalad work with the new emoticons in 8.3? If you display text-wise, if the font supports it and you can type the font character, it should. I don't know if it depends what Mac lets you type in. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you should be able to type it with the Mac.
Yeah, ideally yes, but I haven't tried it. Yeah, Apple purchases a bunch of emoticons.
Yeah, that's not true.
Is 13.7 stable? Wait, in 13.7 stable, the images can still remove the wrong ones. Yeah, nice to fix that. It's on the bug list. I can't remember if it's slated for 14, but yeah. Yes, we're going to fix that. You should be able to delete the right images. I looked into that a while ago, but I haven't had time to actually fix it.
Alright.
How's your poll going, Tan?
It's only 76% of the people replied, so I'm waiting.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or want to talk about how images are put together or rendered or?
Yes.
All right. What?
Well, I guess my big thing is when designing a Sprite or avatar is, what programs you usually use. I've been using Adobe Illustrator for the most part, trying to put little characters together or scenes.
Personally, I think that's probably one of the better ones you can use because it lets you resize it for later, especially, so this doesn't apply specifically to GameSalad because we do the resizing for you, but it's really good in the age of Retina displays because you have art that can scale, and when you're working with the Retina display, you need like really big art in order for it to be shown really small but look sharp. Mm-hmm. So it's good to do work in Illustrator because then you can just export it into a really big image of the size you need. And later on, if you decide, no, I don't need it that big, you can scale it down and it'll look good. Yeah. So you might have
normal.
I don't do art, so.
Yeah. So the main difference is you're using vector art versus rasterized art or pixel art. And pixel art will, unfortunately, eventually you'll have to redo it if you get to a point where you can't scale it up. I think it's blurry. And vector art you can always scale because it's sort of vector. However, vector art is a terrible format to render games, and so you always have to take your vector art and put it into rasterized art before you give it to whoever is using it in a game.
Okay.
Or yeah. So the problem. So we didn't talk about this too. But vector art is actually it's a double-edged sword. Vector art is great for scalability, right? You can scale your art up, scale it down. But if you notice, Illustrator takes a lot of RAM, and those file sizes are huge, and that's because it's storing every vector to go, right? So, and to actually render it, you have to go through and read all the vector points and run through. And if I only have 0.33 milliseconds to do that, there's no way. There's no way. So.
Well, what are your suggestions then?
So, you take your source art and you make it a vector, and then you ask your person what resolutions do you need your art in, and then you export it as from vector to raster.
Yeah, mostly PNG.
Yeah, PNG.
Okay.
Yeah, and can you believe that 60% of the Google Play Store is uncompressed PNG images? I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. But like that's 60% of the space of all the apps that have taken up there.
And the reason we talked about was that decompressing PNGs can be heavy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using like I have a feeling why we didn't see as much of a problem when we were using the Apple libraries to load PNGs was they probably had like a minimal amount of hardware acceleration. Okay. And if most game engines don't want to depend on that part of the pipeline, so they'll use one of the open source or just a custom library, they don't get access to that acceleration, and so the fastest way to speed things up is just leave them uncompressed. And apparently no one wants an Apple Watch in the audience, unless they want to make games for it.
Yeah, which I would be hard-pressed to see the next Battlefield coming out on the Watch.
Yeah, I'm just playing a game for the 10-second interactions. Like, this is going to get tiring real quick.
I would worry about cancer in your wrist.
I'm sure that's happening, too.
Or your wrist melting off from the heat of your phone.
Imagine there's a battery issue. You can't take it out.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask Blair's question real quick. How important are graphics in terms of scene loading times compared to number of actors, number of rules? Images will be your number one bottleneck for getting your scene up. Number one. If we can't load them efficiently, they will take the longest. Absolutely, by far. Creating textures in video memory takes time. So 14 will help with that a lot, but yeah, graphics, getting your graphics optimized for the engine is going to be your number one speed performance increase, by far. Did we answer all your questions about that with the source server?
That's a good starting point. I'm really new to gamesalad and development. I'm more of a designer person, visual person, so that's why I like gamesalad. It was my choice out of looking at so many different ones. So, you know, it's been slow and steady, and I looked at the templates that are available online and kind of just played with them, and also Udemy, looking at little cheapy courses through them. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, most people, and correct me about this in a different way. Most professional developers, you do Illustrator, source art, and then you're like, I'm going to iPhone, export PNG 1000 by whatever. I'm going to Retina 1000 by whatever resolution makes sense.
Also Flash if you're doing animation, because the same issue, you can scale it up and down for animation.
Yes, it's all vector-based also.
Yeah, like Flash and Illustrator work with each other.
So, there is a trick though. I forgot how I forgot what the settings were, but when we were doing vector art for Illustrator for the website, in order to get pixel perfect rendering, you had to align your objects on the half point or something like that.
Okay, well.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like if you did your original coordinate space wrong, and then if you drew a circle, you had to align it on the half point, or otherwise, if it was on a full number point boundary, it would blur, it would alias near it. So if you moved it over by half a point, it would actually.
You got one in gamesalad?
Sharpen it. Huh?
Which in gamesalad or in?
No, in Illustrator.
Oh, in Illustrator. Oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the settings were, but we found out after that. I just learned to move everything over by half a point if I was manually adjusting it.
I've had issues with that with Illustrator too. I should try to find out what's going on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So Scott has a quick question about UDP support. No, we're not really supporting UDP. We don't have real-time gameplay yet as a player. We have turn-based, so we were using a TCP HTTP type request. When we do
networking, so like full networking, like low-level networking support before UDP support.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Real-time networking support may come eventually.
Yeah.
Or peer-to-peer at least.
Okay, so Eric's still a bit confused on what you mean when you say if we're able to tile your image in 14, how can my artist start preparing the artwork? So take a look at your artwork. So there's two ways. One, do you want to have, like, if you're doing like a Mario style game, for example, right? That's just a collection of tiles, right? In that case, you just make a bunch of 64 by 64 tiles, feed them into gamesalad in 14, we will rock that right into a couple mega textures. If you are doing a tile game, like Alone in the Dark or some of these more very stylistic art games, you want to make your hidden features. You want to break your art into multiple layers of images, and you want to try to make images that are very similar in color, so that we can break them up for you into 64 by 64 tiles, the best that we can find. One thing that will be issues if you have like radiant backgrounds, those can't be tiled. They're not. So you need to find ways to kind of get that in a situation. You may just have to eat the cost of that, or maybe break it up into a couple lines if you get the gradient, or find a way to do that.
It's always just breaking it again, like decomposing your images. If you're like building your images in layers, then actually, if it makes sense for your game, break out the objects in the layers.
Yes.
And like make those separate actors that you composite with the engine and not inside your art program.
Yes.
And that's just because. If I'm not saying do that with every single layer of your game, or your art, because that would start getting insane. But if you're doing you have a background and then you're putting the character a plant on it all the time, instead of giving us one image with a plant everywhere, give us a plant, give us the background, and put the plant on there with gamesalad.
Yep. Scott asks, less and less kids are learning how to type code. So in that sense, less and less kids are learning how to type code. So in that sense, gamesalad bad for kids?
I'm not sure exactly what we're asking there, Scott. So we're trying to teach them the fundamentals of logic and coding, which I think is a good thing.
My thought is, if they were if they were already inclined to type code, then they would be skipping gamesalad in the first place. And if they're not inclined to type code, at least using something like gamesalad gives them the ability to think in code, so that one day, when they start seeing code, or when they're asked questions about how a program or how a computer works, they'll get a sense of it. And I think that's just always been true. Like, it's sort of also saying, like, you know, less and less kids are handwriting because of typewriters. Is that bad?
Cursive. They don't teach it anymore.
Yeah.
Evidently not.
Nope.
Evidently not.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Well, actually, a weird thing I talked to my daughter's in kindergarten, and her teacher is saying, there's some of the kids, and it's also the EDU conference, they're saying actually one of the hardest things is kids have a hard time learning to type because they're so used to doing touch. They learn like.
Oh yeah. So at least they didn't. At least T9 didn't hang around long enough for people's kids to just get used to that instead.
I never did learn how to type.
My favorite, I could do like 90 sometimes.
Get typing of the dead.
Oh yeah.
Ever, he's totally right.
Yeah, no, the problem is you have to be like in middle school and have an appropriate game, but
Yeah.
that's like one of my favorite typing games to do.
Yeah, it's true. Like that was way funner than Mavis Beacon teaches typing.
I know.
Mario teaches. Oh, Mario teaches typing wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as typing in the dead.
Yeah, I'd say typing dead is one of my favorite typing games. You can just just have fun typing it. You can test your coding, what you type for professionally. You can test your coding skills. But it sucks. The one time if then, so like autocomplete is totally spoiled me.
Yeah.
I type 3 letters. Okay, yeah, that's what I want.
I'm gonna ask a question.
Sure.
Pretty much probably obvious, but empty space on an image, like empty off channel space, like you'd want the image like trimmed all the way around.
It won't matter for us because we're gonna repack it in our file system anyway. So it is probably better from my perspective as the website, because what happens with gamesalad is you upload the system you upload the games through the web, and so while Ping will get rid of all those blank untrimmed spaces and it doesn't really matter, in Ping it still matters a little because there is still some data and metadata being held for all that extra space. So trim it, yes.
Yeah, so you have to be careful depending on how you trim it. Some image loaders don't understand how to trim that. There's like a couple ways you can remove data. We found that not every image loader is the same.
Well, I mean, if like for instance an Illustrator, trim to object or trim to selected object, and that's fine.
Yeah, does that just take down the full, like, the resolution, just puts it to the closest it can?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, definitely, yeah. If you want to do that, yeah. That definitely helps. Yeah, having extra, like, part of your image that's not used, yeah, it's just wasted memory.
Yeah, I'm used to that, but it is probably, like, I know a lot of people, game developers ask you that a lot, and, like, I guess they get artists doing that a lot.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I worked on both sides. I worked with, like, super technical artists that understand, like, polygons and texture and how that all... And I've worked with artists who don't understand frame rate. So I've worked with both gamuts, and like I had to explain to artists like what an alpha channel is. And programmers sometimes assume the worst when they should probably assume the better.
Yeah, I mean I can understand that, but yeah.
Yeah, you always want to trim off wasted pixels. Like if there's wasted pixels, yeah, you can get rid of them. There's no point. And it also makes things weird too because you're trying to rotate the image and you have all this, the image is actually this, but you're trying to rotate this, and you get weird rotations because you have all this extra space.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Logan Paul.
Scott asking, is a marketplace for graphing coming at launch? I don't think we can talk about that. I think we know that.
We can kind of talk about it. I don't know if we are planning at some point a marketplace for graphene. We don't know if it's coming for launch. I don't think it will because we're planning on hopefully integrating it into the tool. And so it depends on how far along we are with building the basic tool, because we're not going to add something like a marketplace until the tool's solid. But yes, we are planning to have a graph marketplace. I do not know if it's going to be at launch. I doubt it.
So David's asking, I don't know who he's asking this to, so I'll just ask this to everyone because I'm not an artist by trade. Do you work with Adobe Photoshop or just Adobe Illustrator?
I guess it's kind of a poll. So artists in the room.
Oh.
What do you prefer?
Illustrator. It's easier for me just to work with one, but I never rasterize.
Yeah, same out here, yeah.
So that's my hiccup. But I would say work in one.
Yeah.
Don't complicate it by working in a lot of different programs.
I would say our internal artist at GameStop also uses Illustrator. She mostly does, or actually, as far as I know, she exclusively does vector graphics on Illustrator. And then us lesser mortals will export it and include it in Photoshop as needed.
So Scott's asking what font formats be supported. I am assuming you're talking about graphing because right now GameStyle is still going to support the same amount of fonts. We're not going to do bitmap fonts yet. We haven't even gotten a chance to do that.
If we were, let's in ideal world, if you got to add the new font, if you got to update the font system for GameStyle, what kind of font?
TrueType fonts. TrueType.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't support bitmap fonts. I don't know if we're going to do that yet or not. I haven't had a chance to. I'm in art world, so a lot of things outside that have kind of taken a back seat. But the easy one is TrueType. Bitmap fonts can be a little tricky to deal with because we have to come up with a format to describe where the fonts are in the bitmap. And since we're taking everything and making it tiles, that makes things a little more complicated. So TrueType to start with. We'll be TrueType, but GameStyle isn't going to get that for a little while.
Yeah.
And if you want it sooner, go vote. But so far, it's not the top voted feature.
What is the top voted feature now? Do you know?
Polygon collision shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just changed.
Yeah. And then I think the memory leak fix or
That's a bug fix.
Yeah, it's a bug
the
fix.
feature, yeah, it's Polygon. Because we got AdMob in there.
yes, that's
The
true.
original one.
And joystick was further down.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've got our current poll. We have 50% of the people don't make enough to cover a license that are making money. 33% are doing it for fun, and 17% of you are actually doing this for a living.
Which is
How
good.
much is 17%?
That's actually pretty deep.
Of the people here, that would
101
be
on the 101 for the Murat. So.
no, yeah. It's what 4 of us, so like 9 or so people.
So only 67% voted. So there's a lot of
One person. Yeah.
What's the math in this?
Yeah. But yeah, we should have Dan come in and give a talk about actually trying to make money on mobile in the mobile space.
Oh, on Dan FD or Dan yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's basically it's incredibly difficult to make money on the mobile space these days.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I keep not doing it.
It's really like the Fire TV now. Like that would be like the one I go to a GameStyle. Like Fire TV, there's like almost no apps there.
Yeah.
And so there's no competition, so you can totally get your game in there with like before the yeah. Also the controls are a lot of fun to play with on that.
So how come nobody's doing that?
A lot of people are. The problem with Fire TV is they have this kind of I kind of see Amazon as they're trying to figure out what to do, right?
Well, they always do that.
Yeah, so they got the Fire TV out, right? But they ship it with a remote controller, like a remote you use for the television, right? Which is clearly not what you want to play games with. So to make games, they offer a $49 controller you can buy separately. So you have this problem where not all your users have the required hardware for this, and then the other problem is the machine only has 5 gigs of internal storage.
It's really small.
Which is really small for Android.
Really small. Yeah.
You have like if you want to play like the top racing games or AAA games, they're like 2 gigs.
That's
Yeah,
really
but
didn't
it
think
is
about making it into a game. But do you think they'll come out with like a next generation?
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. If all they really need to do is take the USB port in the back and let you plug in an SD card or something like that.
Yeah.
And that solves the problem. Yeah. Because Android supports external ones. Just go in there and let them write the apps to the external SD card, done.
Yeah.
You can totally solve that problem. But that machine is blazingly fast. That Fire TV is incredibly powerful. Like it's a quad core. It has like a gig or 2 gigs of RAM. It has a pretty darn good GPU. So.
What about the Apple TV?
So right now, yes, the Apple TV is actually, you can't write apps for the API is entirely closed. Like Apple gives certain people access to it, but technically it's just an iOS device.
And also the way you think of it as a console is it just streams stuff from your.
Yeah, it actually is a very small hard drive. Like it has almost no actual flash memory.
Yeah, so that actually is a way some people think of it as a console. You just have it stream the game.
Yeah.
So you're playing it on the screen, but you're controlling it.
Yeah, I think Apple wants you to do like AirPlay. Like you get a Fire TV, you use your iPhone, you get a joystick, and you AirPlay your iPhone up to the TV.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense because you can upload the game to the App Store, right?
the iOS. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And so the idea of their thought is that
Catching up.
the Fire TV, the Apple TV is more of a streaming medium than actual gameplay. And then Roku has the opposite problem. They have an underpowered device with a fantastic remote controller and a terrible API to work with because all their stuff is written within their own proprietary scripting language called BrightScript, and they don't let people get access to C++ backend. Normally, I think it's one of the few that actually has access to it.
Well, has anybody tried writing to Amazon and being like, hey, why don't you,
Yeah, next time I may suggest that to them.
they're pretty open to that sort of, like, they do take suggestions.
Next time you talk to Amazon, she's like, make it so you can put more storage in Amazon Fire TV and bundle the controller for heaven's sake.
Just be like, hey, I'm a game developer. We have a full 8,000 game developer degree.
Your game system would rock harder if you did the following.
Yeah.
And then you have the I don't know if you guys seen the Nexus player, which is Google's competition, which is interesting. They picked Intel as the architecture because most Android devices run ARM,
not
Intel. Yeah. So interesting enough, you got to recompile your code, which I guess they don't care because they whenever you write in Java.
Also, I think Intel is their chosen platform
Is
for
it?
TV stuff.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Like I've been noticing a lot more of the TV-oriented devices are Intel instead. So interestingly, we find out that most people play monthly, but 30% of you still like the yearly plan, which is nice.
That's cool. Scott asked, will Graphene have a perspective library built in? Also, what other stuff will be built in? Can't comment. I don't know yet. We're still working on it. I would assume like orthogonal versus asymmetric or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That needs a little clarification there.
I'm guessing they just mean can you, in effect, just do different kinds of projections, different kinds of layouts other than this flat 2D.
Yeah.
And I think.
Well, we've already announced that we're going to support, or not we, but they've announced they're going to support ISO 2D. Nichols has already said that on the
okay.
Yeah. So.
They're telling you can do ISO 2D in gamesalad too.
Yeah, we've had people that demoed that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have people make
very impressive actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is impressive with Fallout.
You could probably make. We have a game. What is that game that someone made? That's like a Stone Age, like RPG. We have a game like Fallout.
Isle of Bones. Yeah.
Isle of Bones.
Oh, that actually sounds great in that context in the story.
Yeah.
There are a few isometric games that make it isometric. Isle of Bones actually works very well as an isometric. I think the only problem is that it is a very complex game for a gamesalad game, so over time it starts getting buggy near the end with inventory keeping, and because it's one of those games where it's randomly generated world, but it's like static. So once you generate it, you go through and you do stuff, and it stores your progress. And I think after time, some of that bugs.
So William asked, when testing created on the Xbox 360 wired controller and game select using the back button works fine, but when testing the Fire TV using a Nyko Game Pro, which is like the third-party Amazon controller, the left button that should be back does nothing for me. Yes, and we purposely turned off the back button for Amazon in the meantime because our games quit when you use the back button. However, Amazon had a problem with that on the Fire TV, so right now on the Amazon Fire TV back button doesn't quit. So on the next update, which is still in QA, and I wasn't quite able to get it out today, we actually have an update that will allow you to use the back button on the gamepad if your back button does not quit the app. So soon you'll be able to use the back button for your game. Maybe as soon as tomorrow or the day after, if I can get the last few bugs fixed.
All right, let's go to poll, and then the next question. Current poll closed is, how many of you would be willing to participate in a 30-minute user survey? That was actually asked by one of our marketing people. So if you are actually interested in it, then one, now we know what reward to give.
Yeah.
And two, please, I'm trying to think the best way to do this.
Just probably message me.
Yeah, message BlackCloak on the forums.
BlackCloakGS.
BlackCloakGS on the forums, and let him know that you would be willing to participate and send your email address to him if it's not the one your account is under.
So Scott just said, apparently in the last update, Amazon finally opened up so you can put more storage on your TV. Which is good. They should totally have done that from the beginning with. Oh, anything else is only leak. Okay. Well, good. Good thing Amazon.
It doesn't have motion controls, does it?
No. It's just a remote control.
Yeah, it doesn't have. Or you have to. Amazon says in the documentation you got to tell them which way to hold it. Yeah. You probably should pop that door through there. She's gonna get locked out there.
Oh,
Yeah, I have to go. Let's see. Okay, are you working with third parties on making plugins for graphene, or maybe gamesalad, like maybe Particle Designer 2? I don't know if we can talk about any of that stuff.
Say that again?
Oh, Scott asks, are you working with third parties to making plugins for graphene, or maybe gamesalad, like maybe Particle Designer 2?
Okay, so there is no one specifically we're working with. We'd like to eventually with graphene, and that's graphene, right?
Yes.
Yes, we'd eventually like to with graphene. That's part of the way things are being architected is for good plugins, but we're not planning to at launch, and we haven't actually specifically talked to anyone, as far as I know, on like who we're going to integrate and what. So suggestions would be good. Worst case, if I'm completely wrong about this plugin thing because I'm like slow on the loop, it would be good to know what kinds of things you want to integrate with, and as part of the direction for graphene. But I think that we're planning on some kind of plugin system at some point. I don't know what kind of things we're going to integrate with, and your specific one, I don't know.
Yeah, and gamesalad, we're not doing plugins. Like the architecture for gamesalad is kind of.
Yeah, we talked about it before, and basically we decided it would be better just to punt it over to graphene.
Yeah. That doesn't mean, if you have some burning third party who really wants to work with gamesalad really badly, send them over to me and we'll talk to them. We have done in the past integrate some stuff from other third parties.
Yeah. Like the IOC stuff. Ads.
Okay. More polls. Okay. All right. There we go. Everything's set up. One of the interesting things we were talking about rasterization or making something like a pixel format versus a vector format. Valve actually published a white paper about using vector art and fonts, and how, because fonts, one of the problems is scaling. You have a lot of issues with blurriness and whatnot, and they use vector to do that.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things I've noticed, like my home Mac is one of the Retina ones, and Steam looks horrible. I think they do vector, but they have their own render system for all their. They're using like a third-party windowing system and their own rendering, so everything renders at pixel resolution and not resolution. So everything looks very.
So Scott asks, in Graphene, if I write code in Java, will it work on iOS or just Android? iOS will not run Java. Period.
Yeah.
No matter what you're using, us, them, whoever, iOS will not run Java. Period.
So just
nor will the Mac App Store. You cannot write Java Mac apps anymore.
So I don't know if Steve ever said you can run Java. I doubt we'll. Well, unless the plugin supports it. I don't think you can do it natively.
There was been talk about supporting languages other than Lua, but certainly on the first release, it's just going to be Lua.
Yeah, if we were going to do plugins, like a native plugin thing, you're going to have to write in C++.
Yeah.
It's really going to be the only way. Or you theoretically could make a plugin for Android only, and write one for iOS only if you want to go that route.
Yeah, it's probably going to be C++.
So this will make you feel good.
Yay.
What? You plan on making a game with? Oh yeah, well, that's good. Yay, people are using the gamepad. I said, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we have like the best gamepad support. Period. Like, it takes no brains to get gamepads and controllers working in gamesalad. Like all the pains. Like you go to the last meetup, which was that big thunderstorm that we had. So I did a talk on joysticks and the pains that joysticks are. If you want to see it, I have it recorded. But how easy it is with gamesalad to get controllers going. Like we take care of dead zones. We take care of, the fact that this controller doesn't have that button and that controller doesn't have that button, and there's different APIs on different goddamn systems. And
Interestingly, this is also the most popular question. It's the only one that 80% of the people have voted on. All the other ones have been like less. Which means, come on, people, vote on stuff.
Okay, so this is a long thing to read. Okay, Scott says I guess that's in my opinion, but can foreign engines just say what is new in the updates and put everything else as the same as last week? It may be just me, but I don't read the same news over and over again. If it's still being worked on, it's still being worked on. People in the forums understand that and will look at the old one. put the link to the last one.
We'll talk to them about dividing it up, but the reason we do that is because there are forum members who will ask again and not look at the previous thing if something hasn't been mentioned explicitly, and so that's why we do it that way. But we could probably make it so that all old stuff is, in the second half of the post, and you can know when to stop.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
See, like this last poll, only 60% of people are voting on it. People really like game controllers.
I know, they're fun to play with. Like, there is something to be said with making your thing work on a game controller versus like touch or keyboard and mouse or something like that. Yeah.
And it's very important for when we get the Windows executable, of course.
Yeah, a lot of people, or Mac, if you made a Mac app.
Yeah.
Which actually, really enough, a lot of Mac apps don't support joysticks correctly, nor do they care. Being someone who's used Mac more than PCs, like, I was using. I've used Mac my entire life, and I remember the days when you could barely get games for Mac, and joysticks are terribly supported, and yeah, so it's nice to see things like Deus Ex being released for Mac. But I will have to say Apple needs to get a little more on the game with their controller support. Even their new Wi-Fi controller thing is kind of meh. Yeah, one of the reasons why I started my open source joystick library is because I was tired of the fact that I couldn't play. I couldn't pick up my joystick that I had bought and we were sitting around. Why couldn't I use my DualShock that literally the Logitech dual action is like one of those oldest controllers ever, but it's like rock solid, right? Yeah. And it doesn't work on half the games. And yeah, like I was playing Rain. I think it was Rain that I was playing, and like I was trying to play it. I was like, "What the hell does this not work? It's a standard controller." Whereas then I researched and was like, "Oh, that's why no one does it." And so that's why I made the library, because I was just tired of. I'm like, we should just have a library that works. Yeah. You should be like, I need joysticks for it. Oh, I'll go grab this library and plug it in.
Yeah. So the poll results are strangely symmetrical. There's equal number of you use stable and nightly, and an equal number of you use the RCs and old version. So,
well, I can understand using the old version though. Like, as a game developer, you tend to kind of, if you're developing a game, you want to kind of stay with the same
version.
Yeah.
Something through.
Yeah.
No,
it's like weird bugs you can't find.
Yeah. Changing engines in the middle of a project is definitely you want to do.
Yeah, we try hard to be backwards compatible, but sometimes especially when we're making these giant,
performance changes.
We end up breaking things.
Yeah.
Which is, we try our best, but it's
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes we have to break things, and
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been learning the fun over the week, over my evenings. I've been learning the pains and weirdness of direct input. That's a weird language. That's a weird API. It's strangely, once you get used to it, it's not that bad.
But just trying to get you
the
frame of reference.
Figuring it out, yeah. Like if I didn't go pull down their example, I would have no clue how to use this. Like, it's so unself-explanatory. Like, their concept of event weight objects is weird.
APIs are really weird.
Yes.
Interesting. I was using Unity, and I wanted to, like, make a custom editor so I could make my own tool, and, like, it was just, to me, it was just so ridiculous how obtuse it was to, like, get that functionality. Like, you'd think that it would have been, like, really easy, but, like, and the weird thing is somebody made a package to where it basically is really easy, but like, why did the original thing not come that way? Like, it just makes no sense. Like, okay, so I want to have an open window here. To do that in Unity, you got to have like 3 different paragraphs of code, where in an add-on you can type in, dot window, and you get your, it just makes sense. And it's like, why could Unity not do that?
Yeah, and that's why people use GameStop.
Yeah.
Because we don't make you jump those hoops.
Yeah. Yeah. They're hoops.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with C#. Like, I love to hate it. Actually, I thought about my next project would be write a custom memory manager for C# that completely negates the garbage collector. Like, I basically just keep the garbage collector from ever running. It never runs.
That could be interesting.
And I do all the memory pulling, but I don't know if I can. I don't know how well it'll let me do that. So, but after I get done with joysticks, that'll be my next full-side project. Anything Scott asked? Anything you can say about time for beta testers to get Graphene Beta, or just doc support in some formats? I don't know the timetables for that. It's being worked on. Fast as we get going, that's when you'll have it.
Yeah, it's like we have no idea when it's coming out. I do know from the web team we're starting to design the new Graphene website. So I don't know if that indicates anything, but hopefully something.
Going forward. Yeah, some of the interesting things too that I don't know if I'll ever catch on. I think the weirdest thing I ever saw was someone made Quake to do real-time rendering, like actual like ray tracing.
Huh.
Because the graphics card was fast enough, and you could write it in the graphics card. I guess you use OpenCL or something like that to actually do the rendering.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that was kind of interesting technology. I don't think you'll ever see that in games necessarily, because you can always do, because polyfill is so much faster than ray tracing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious about other, because
Wow, what do 38 people do?
Yeah, I
collect unemployment.
I just left it there because I figured that working from home or working from something not game related would cover other, but apparently some people do something other than those two things.
I'm curious. What do 38% of our people do?
Yeah.
Travel the world, smoke truckers or something like that. They're billionaires. They don't work. Or they're retired, maybe they're retired.
Oh yeah, that's true.
How about that? So I guess while you're still doing poll, maybe between polls, I'll show a demo of our ARC's progress.
Or you just go ahead, just when you're ready.
That's fine. We'll let this poll finish, and I'll.
Well, no, because I can just run it.
Oh, can you run the background?
Not sure actually. We're at 70%.
Okay. I'll just have it up here.
So tell me when you're ready, because I can close the poll now. Usually 73 is about when we get.
Let me answer William's question here, and then. How many cycles does constrain and loop do per frame/second? Any of the attributes, I think constrain is one of them. There's a couple of behaviors that run per frame. In a game engine, there's a called loop, an update loop that we do.
Yeah.
Logic and rendering.
All the for loops are per frame.
Per frame, okay. And so those will get rendered per frame. Now, how often it happens depends on the frame rate. I think Brian told me it was 60.
We tried doing 60.
Yeah, so I think we're at 60 frames now if you don't end up getting performance issues. If you do the math, you'll get an update every 0.16 milliseconds. That's how often it'll run.
So, latest poll results, and then we'll go on to the preview. Most of you make casual games, a few of you make hardcore games, and some of you even make apps with gamesalad. That's awesome. I should have qualified with gamesalad. I'm assuming some of y'all might be making apps in general. All right. Well, show off.
Okay, so this is going to be a little hard because it's a little laggy. Okay, so this is a preview build of Arc here, the Arc browser, the gamesalad running in Arc. Clearly we haven't given it to you guys because it can still crash on you.
Yeah, we're working on it.
So, but you can see here, I should probably pull up Activity Monitor. Let me pull up Activity Monitor so you can kind of see the memory usage and what's happening. There we go. So you can see we're now down to 42 megabytes. So we're really trimming it down. I went through and did a bunch of cleanup. And this is Big Top, one of our templates. We pop into a scene. The first time it takes a little bit, and you'll see a little lag on here. So now we're at 67.2 megabytes. And now you'll see that I'm hopping between scenes and it's seamless. There's no pinwheel. You'll see when I leave that in best case it doesn't crash on me. There we go. Oops. I go pull scenes back, sorry. Back down to 70 megs. So we're doing pretty good on CPU, memory usage. There's still some improvements we can do, but as you can see, it's very smooth. You don't get any pinwheels in that. I can play Big Topper, hopefully, it doesn't crash on me. Oops, I should go first scene. There you go. There's the first scene. You know, it still plays smoothly, and then I can back out of it, and it's instantaneous.
Though that shouldn't be affected much because you're not using the memory manager.
I'm tearing down that entire scene though.
Oh yeah.
And you know, see, we're still creeping up a little bit, but nowhere as bad as we were. And so we'll make continued improvements on it.
Let me know when you're done. I'll start the next poll.
So anyway, we're making good progress. We're squashing bugs. We still have, though, I think the last count was, what, 13?
I don't know. Last time I saw it was, when I checked in my stuff, it was 15 or 16.
Yeah, it keeps fluctuating. Every time I think I've squashed like 5 or 6 bugs, it comes back up again. But as soon as we get those bugs done so it doesn't crash on you, we'll get an RC out to you guys. It's just taking longer than we thought. So please be patient. Thank you for your patience. We'll get there. Go crazy before we get. And you guys follow up question if you haven't watched.
Well, there's the last one is kind of part of it.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
There could be that too.
So actually, this might be a good time. It's strange to say put it in the question, but if anyone has anything they want to share, then we'd be happy to give you the stage. If you have a project you're working on, or if you actually, if you have a project you're working on, or you want to show off that you made for your gamesalad game, that kind of thing.
Yep. Or if you have other questions of gamesalad and whatnot, we have lots of knowledge here.
Only 50% of the people voted. I think we're nearing the end of our night.
Doing you tired of the polls.
How many people are joining us?
The tendency.
97.
Let's see here. So there's 1, 2, 3 of us. So about 10, 9 to 10.
96, because that computer counted all 3 of us. The computer.
Yeah, there's only 13 attendees. The 101 is not really.
Oh, 13 out of 101.
Yeah, you didn't read that right. Yeah, no.
So,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, never mind.
So it's about 9. We fluctuate anywhere. I've had 30. I've had 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like their pools.
Well, I upgraded to Pro right away, even though I'm still struggling because I want that access. That was my original.
And we appreciate this capability.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I hope to be up to snuff. Maybe I can bring some graphics.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Next time, or if I can't get here in time because I came from San Antonio, maybe
Oh, wow.
I'll do it
Wow,
online.
impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I missed South by Southwest, and that was a question of mine for you. Was how did that go? South by Southwest EDU.
It went really well, really well. There's actually an interview of me talking at South by South EDU. I can't remember what was it. I can't remember Vibe or something like that interviewed us. Which is fun because I just got a camera showed to me and said, "Hey, go." Everyone's like, okay." But yeah, it went really well. A lot of educators were excited to use it. I think in the education space we're like the best choice for people learning when you get in game development kids, because it takes a bit to teach elementary, middle school kids how to code, and
Yeah.
Oh, God.
yeah, that's when you don't want to spend a whole semester of like, let's teach you how to code, or like Unity, right? Let's teach you how to code in C# before you can get anything done.
Yeah, then we'll teach you how to make games.
And then we'll how you make out of games, right? Whereas game side, it's like, and now let's make games.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's not a whole much you have to learn.
And not that.
Yeah. And now we have a better Windows version. That's the other thing I thought about too. If you guys are using Windows, we released our RC, our second, third RC.
Second RC.
Yeah, which is vastly better than our current stable version now.
Yeah.
I recommend going try it out. If you're using Windows, you'll find it fantastically better than what we have.
There's still a couple of issues with some behaviors not working quite right in preview, and we're still working on figuring out which graphics cards won't work on native preview, because there's issues with old graphics cards. Or the main problem is graphics cards that report they can do OpenGL correctly that actually can't, because graphics cards will lie, unfortunately, about their features to engines. Yeah. And so it'll say, we can do these things that you say you need to render your game, and then when you actually got to do it, they crash because they can't actually do it.
Wow. Well, that's I never heard of that before.
Yeah, they basically do it so they can say they meet this spec. But if you actually, all it is basically OpenGL. OpenGL is a system where you can query what features do you have, and it gets a list of enums. But there's nothing in there that says you actually have to implement those.
Yeah. And also you can find things too where like on Android it'd be like a bug.
Yeah.
You're never gonna fix the bug, you just have to work around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you make a PC game, usually there's an entire block of QA people whose entire job it is to Frankenstein machines. And every possible they call it compatibility lab, and they just like graphics cards, just shove them in GPUs and try to find bugs. And I've seen like bug reports where like this graphic card, this memory on speed level 2 has this corruption. You're like, okay, if you're using this graphics card, don't do this, do this.
Yeah. You actually have to specifically code in for that particular card.
Yeah. So Dave.
So that's something we're still working on the Windows side. There's issues there, but we're getting there. Hopefully, once the ARC stuff is slowing it down a little bit because I'm helping Alan out with the ARC stuff instead of working on Windows right now. But once we get that down to a manageable level, yeah, we'll be getting Windows on very soon.
Yep. So Dave asks, I'm an artist, and Steve and I can help answer this question. I'm an artist. What is the best way to collaborate with other coders without working on games and ideas that go nowhere? Is there a large market of coders that publish games, and where can I find them? Are you asking, like, are there just, like, games out there that you can just download and change out the art? I'm not
I think they're trying to find how to find a good team.
Oh, how to find a good team? Oh, that's a hard question.
Yeah. Networking is
IGDA, meetup groups.
Gamma Sutra.
Oh, yeah, Gamma Sutra. Yeah. There's like game developer forum. I've never tried to work with someone there. Yeah, I think the meetups is probably the best in networking. I will tell you my personal experience. It is hard to find good contractors. Yeah. It is really hard to find good contractors.
So what?
For almost anything.
Building your
I'm a contract artist, so I take offense.
Well, I've only had to hire contract programmers. So
Okay.
Here's the other flip. This is an artist looking for programmers, so we're all talking about the rest of the team. Apparently, artists are all good.
Yeah, I've actually had very success hiring contract artists. Maybe it's because like the artist's work is right there. Like you're like, this is what I draw. You're like, that looks good. Okay, that can work with that. Whereas the coder, you have to wait for them to turn something in, to find out they're bad. Yeah. Also, when you get really complicated architecture, it's hard to find people to do things like that. Also, like a lot of game developers and people who actually professionally do it are usually wrapped up by somebody who has lots of money who wants to hire them full time. It's such a specialized skill. Yeah, I don't know. There's consortiums. I have found there are people like games. Usually what happens is after people get kind of burnt out of the game industry, coders will kind of go into consortiums, and like those will be this group. I met one at Captivate called like 21st Century Toys. It's just a bunch of game developers whose entire existence is to help out teams who need like hardcore game developer contractors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think it's called 21st Century Toys or something like that. Yeah, there's a couple of them, and that's kind of what you get. There's a couple. What is that? There's like an contractor bid thing that's there.
Oh,
I've never used it.
Decoder or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a couple of them. Yeah, most people I know like usually work at a studio or have gone on to other outside game coding for coders. The biggest problem you have for at least game development is the burnout rate is 5 years for a game developer.
Yeah, it's about like 10 years for artists.
Yeah.
So they've been there. They don't want to go back, especially considering there's lots of places that pay so much for programming that aren't games.
So part of the problem, right, is in the game industry you pay about 30% less cut of money, and you get like 200% more work.
Yeah.
And so you're in there for the passion, and then after you get to death march, you have kids, you don't want death march anymore. You're like, I'm done with this. I'm going someplace else. It's really weird to think like you're 5 years in the industry, you're like a veteran.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
And I've been in 20 years.
I know you dealt with the marches.
Yeah.
You know, I'm coming up on 8 or 9, so thankfully I've been able to avoid more of the crunches than I think you have.
Yeah, well, we're working at gamesalad actually. It's been pretty good because we really don't crunch here.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, I've had to work overtime, but yeah, some of the when working on Star Wars Galaxies, we crunched for 6 months, and working on the Sim. We crunched for 3 months, like mandatory 12-hour days plus weekends kind of deal.
So, yeah. For people who don't work in the game industry, I worked in like web startups, and so for us, crunch is like 80 80-hour weeks. That's crunch. I've heard like real crunch in the game industry is like 120-hour weeks, 120-hour weeks. So at which point I just kind of answered that's not crunch. That's just a bad lifestyle.
It's all ultimately it's poor management, and sadly there's a lot of that in the game industry.
So what is the average pay for a programmer?
It probably depends on scales. There's like
it depends highly on where you live. Starting out, I believe it's 30 to 40K, or is it higher than that these days?
I don't know. I haven't been out.
I think it's higher, but it's still in like.
Yeah, Gamma Sutra does a yearly salary.
I think it's pretty inaccurate though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
There are only
laugh
that
when I
many
see
people
it.
that are going.
Yeah. Well,
No, they do it online poll.
Yeah, they're probably like West Coast, East Coast, right? Like those are way more expensive to pay developers there than like
Anywhere in
Austin.
between. Yeah.
There's a reason why Austin's like number 2 for game development, right?
Yeah, because
Like
cheap labor. Get it.
At least cost of living. You can pay people at least a livable wage, right?
Yeah.
That's like cheap labor, but at least you can pay people. You can get less cost because you don't have to pay for their expensive real estate in San Francisco or LA.
Yeah, like I think this surprised me. Like the ESA has their average salary for the game industry at like $90K. It's like, wait, maybe. It's like that's if you count like everyone,
15 years.
all the owners who made the money they made from their royalties as part of the average.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. In theory, the according to Gambit Sutra, the average programmer is 90,000. But you have to remember that's a lot of that's in California, which is horribly expensive.
Even
Yeah.
there,
They're not the price
it's not the
there,
average
right?
that I knew. When
Yeah,
I
also is that people who are veterans who have been to the industry
Right.
5 years?
That's just the total average.
Yeah,
Oh, they-
the Bay Area 90K is what you
It's
need
nothing,
to
yeah.
stay in the. It's like actually have.
That's how you buy groceries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, whoever you are that can't find your pants, hey, find your pants. Come over here. You got me.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
Work from home, always in the pajamas.
Yeah, I was looking recently over like where people live in the meetup groups. And, yeah, we have a lot of overseas people. I want to thank the people from Australia because that's rough being like that time zone switch.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us and dealing with that time zone. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
We have a lot of UK people. There's not a lot of centralized pockets. There's lots of centralized countries, but we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah. I just want to mention something here on the Gambit Sutra salary site. Non-salaried solo independent game developers made an average of 11,000, while individual members of an indie game team made an average of 50,000. So get on a team, because doing it on your own, it's just not going to be worth it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm just looking, seeing what it would cost when I do finally have some funds. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, if you're doing everything alone, you're so swamped with work that the amount of time it takes versus the amount of money coming in just doesn't pay out.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're on a team, you can split up duties, you can get things done faster, you can get your game out faster, you can start making money earlier, and you can make more games because once you get that out, you can immediately start on the next game. And it's more efficient.
You can't make.
Yeah.
But wait, is that 50,000 because they're being funded?
No, this is independent. Individual members of an indie team.
Oh, man.
They're probably being. Some of them.
They may be funded by third party or whatever, but they're still not part of like EA or whatever. They're called indies. So.
I think smaller studios count as like contracted.
Yeah. Let's see. Indie. Yeah. Basically, if the studios don't make less than 10,000, or they make less than 200,000. So if you're making less than 200,000.
Isn't that like
they consider you an indie?
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it certainly doesn't count your EAs and Activision.
Yeah, sure.
But it would probably count like your Telltale. That's probably considered an indie game, even though they're very successful, and so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, I said there is actually part 2 going to find people like trying to hire people out of the education space, like universities. Yeah, it's really hard.
Some of them are good, but most of them,
Yeah, we had
the problem is
APIs for game stuff is just it's a specialized skill. Like what you've been
it's
doing,
very
you don't
specialized.
really.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things where now that I've like fiddled around with it, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. But like if I went straight from my programming class, I would have no clue.
They don't. One problem with colleges is they don't teach event-based programming. In gaming, it's all event-based.
Yeah, and they're also moving away from low-level to web-based, which is
does not help at all.
Not help if you're trying to get into the game industry.
No, it does not.
Yeah, I've always thought that universities probably have multi-track now with software. Do you want to go into desktop mobile development, or do you want to go into web development? Like these are 2 wholly separate
things.
Because I was talking to one of my friends who's a double E major, and I was like, well, he knows low level, but he has no clue how to architect software, and then the software architects have no clue how to do low level. So you're kind of can't have either one.
Yeah, that's like UT, like one of the. It wasn't an official track, but because so many people came from IBM, the big thing was OS software. So low level architectural, but very very bent towards building OSs.
God, so few people need that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You should have a, it doesn't.
oh, yeah, this is true.
You make your That's good. People sell it in ads. Interesting.
Not a lot of it at purchase, which is
Yeah.
surprising.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That is.
Well, the
really
in-app
interesting.
purchases, isn't that kind of like art heavy? But you really got to
It
have
is.
a lot of.
It is
Yeah, 'cause
generally
it's
very
content.
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I guess you're unlocking levels. Like, you can pay to unlock level files.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not exactly.
Yeah, that's not good.
prefer it
That's
be
not
all
good design.
Yeah, Command Go has that. Like, if you can collect the stars, but then if you want to, you can just pay to get to the next level. That's interesting.
I bet you a lot of people pay to just get to the next level.
I don't know. I paid one time because it was like short, like 2. I was like, it was like 2, yeah. But then I was like, the rest of the time, after that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back and collect all of them, so I can just go easily through them. Yeah.
We have about half of the people answering the polls now. Most of the people are happy, and some of the people want someone to do better. So come on.
I would like more people to, if you guys would, I'd like more people to talk. I've done 3 presentations now. I'm getting pretty good at whipping together presentations. Put that one together in like 2 hours. So, while I can whip together presentations quickly, it does make my life a little less hectic if other people have topics they want to present. I'm not the only person who can present, and you don't have to be here in person to present. You can present remotely as well. So if you have a topic you want to talk about, and we've had some really good ones, please hit me up on the forums and let me know, like, hey, I want to do this talk, and we'll get you set up.
At this point, it's also helpful if you have like deep questions about gamesalad that you want someone else to answer. It's okay to just suggest the talk and see if anyone wants to talk about it. Like nominate someone for a talk because you know they know a lot, or ask people.
Nominate a subject and see if anybody knows about it.